We'll call that the abs of being a Land Rover hoarder. ABS. Always be searching. Welcome back to the Lost Cause Ranch and what is another day in the life of a Land Rover hoarder. And if you haven't seen this yet, this is kind of the day-to-day behind-the-scenes stuff that happens here at the Lost Cause Ranch while we're not building things like the LR4 truck, the lightweight, and messing with our six-wheel Discovery. Today we got quite a bit of fun stuff going on. We just got back from Colorado for the Land Rover National Rally where we picked up this P38 Range Rover. Well, I guess we didn't pick it up in Colorado. We picked it up from Crazy Nick in San Diego, then drove it to Colorado. If you didn't catch that last video, that's what we did. We drove this from San Diego to Colorado, then back to Iowa, and here we are. And after being gone for 10 days, we got some catching up to do. And the good news is, while we were gone, some stuff showed up. We got some stainless tube, some stainless elbows, aluminum elbow, silicone hoses, which means we are going to get the intercooler mounted on the lightweight after we get some things sorted out in the shop. We also had a delivery from Lucky 8, and that is our SYA kit for the LR4 truck. So we'll have the suspension and clearing the 35s finally sorted out, but that will not be on today's video. That'll be on the next one. Today, we have better stuff. I mean, well, I think it's better stuff. I mean, I really like Land Rovers, but the stuff that's going on today is pretty cool too. But before we dive into that, we got some orders to take care of that came in while we were in Colorado. And we got a few things boxed up, ready to drop off at FedEx and UPS. It's always a nice thing when you come back to orders. I've said that time and time again. You know what else is also nice? Getting to drive the L405 that was parked up for about 10 days. The P38's good. This is better. Well, we just ran down to a buddy's and picked up a Range Rover load of stuff. Flat 6. And if you know that one, you know we're in for some fun. We're still out of room though. This isn't helping. You know, this thing should be much heavier than it is for the size, which means it's probably pretty legit. But we got a neat little thing showing up in the morning. Stay tuned. So yeah, those goodies should work. If there was one thing I could hoard besides Land Rovers, maybe Porsches. Now this is a tad bit newer than I'm used to, but we just need to essentially take the entire rear end off so we can throw all the goodies on. All right, so we just pulled out the last factory piece that we're replacing, and now it's on to the goodies. This is probably the hardest part of the job. It's just kind of tight in there. They don't leave you a whole lot of room, but we're doing an intake plenum. And if you look at this, you got a little more of a smooth flow than the factory one. Plus this thing's just goofy. That was a little bit cumbersome getting that out. But as you can see, this is straight through. So you're just gonna have the boost hammering the back of this before splitting off to each side of the intake versus having a little bit of a Y directing the flow to either side. So that should work out nice. It's always nice working on fresh, fairly new stuff too. Everything comes apart, everything's relatively clean, or at least a load cleaner than the old Land Rovers. Oh, I'm f***ing your shit up.
And 1, 2, 200.
I think that's probably, yeah. I mean, does it matter that it's in further? This is for the TJ. Because the other one's got all the aluminum shit, right? Perfect. Get into all sorts of random stuff. So not only are we working on Porsche stuff today, Ted had to swing out and use the bender for Jeep steering arm modification. And it worked out, I guess. And check out what he showed up in. You guys think I'm random, but man, just look at the variety of stuff going on here today. These are the type of days that make me happy. So I think we are ready to button this guy up now. Excited to get it fired back up. We have that plenum in there That was not the most fun to do, but we have upgraded air filters, so should flow quite a bit more. But the real star of the show is the titanium exhaust. This is just in there loose. We got the tips to install into the bumper. We got to get the bumper on and then we can align everything. But in addition to that, we have some upgraded turbo inlets. Now it's just putting all the pieces back together. And I think I remember how it all goes back together. But no, I'm just kidding. This is like bringing me back to the dealership. The Germans know how to design a car. So before we pulled the bumper off, we obviously had some tape on there to protect the edges just so we don't nick anything. But we also made some alignment marks that correspond with our little clips, just so it's a little easier to line this guy up. So that, coupled with the witness marks on the plastic from the screw head, will get us exactly back to where it was, and we shouldn't have to do much adjustment. The only adjustment we need to do is to that titanium exhaust once we have the bumper in place. We put the new tips in, and then once the bumper's on, we can make sure everything sits centered in those tips. All right, so this is getting down to pretty much the end of what has to go back on. And now we're doing the important part of updating the calibration. We have the best desk in the world, a 109 Nada. So we got the mobile office out this morning doing a little work, uploading a video. And as I'm doing that, I discovered one person's workstation is slightly better. I need to get my life together. And a terrible screen that doesn't work outside in the sun, but we can't use our MacBook for this. We got to go old school with the Windows. Well, it's not really old school, but this is old school. But we got a charger hooked up so we don't mess anything up. And this thing should be pretty frickin' wicked. I feel like I'm in like Fast and the Furious right now. Danger to manifold. Office upgrade. We got the other computer out with the instructions on it. We're pretty high tech around here. I've had worse stuff laying around here, but we're gonna go drop the 911 off, go pick up the Range Rover, and figure out what to do next. Probably should clean that pig up. All right, so it is the next morning, and this is becoming more of like 3 days in the life of a Land Rover Hoarder as we catch up from our little whirlwind trip with the P38 to the National Rally. But the good news is today we're going on a trip and we're back to the hoarding. And for this one, we got not just one buddy, but two going along. Oh, Yuki, a camera shy.
Both are finished in a special, one-of-a-kind color, silver. Just not even doing anything. Just give them to Linus for the weekend.
Apparently Chet got sick of the little spot I left him in the back. Now we're fighting over the front seat. I mean, I could just buy less stuff. That would make more sense. But they fit. We're about 7 hours into our trip and these two are just cashed out. You know, sometimes I miss being a passenger and being able to take a road trip nap. I mean, I suppose there's nothing actually stopping me from taking a nap right now. So Yuki has the amazing ability to spot any farm animal we ever run across on the side of the road. Right now, we see some cows. Her favorite is probably goats, maybe horses. But there's the excitement of the trip for her. Some people get excited about Land Rovers, some people about cows. Who am I to judge? All right, apparently 8 hours was enough for the dogs. And they were sick of being in the car. So I dropped them off at home. And we should unload this. But that seems like a Tomorrow Joe problem. Because now that it's nice out and not raining, I think we should spray this guy off and see what it actually looks like. I mean, I kind of got a look at it before we took off, but it was like 10 10 o'clock at night. So not the greatest look at it. And it's been dirty ever since. We're gonna start off by cleaning the engine some. It dripped some oil when we picked it up and a little bit in Ouray when we were driving it around, but man, on the ride home from Colorado to Iowa, it started puking a bunch. Back to dripping a little bit, but that 1,200 mile straight shot really opened some oil leaks up. We have what appears to be that not connected. Well, it's broken, that's why. So that's probably somewhat of an issue. We'll get a new one of those. It appears we got some power steering leakage. I think we have one of the valve covers leaking too, even though I believe a shop replaced those once already, but just by the smell of oil on the way home. That's usually a sign of a valve cover just because it's dripping down onto the exhaust, or at least something up high enough to drip down onto the exhaust. Like an oil pan typically doesn't cause that unless you're blowing a bunch back on the Y pipe, but we'll have to get it in the air and check that out. And we got it all sprayed off, cleaned up, and it actually is a pretty nice example. All things considered, this thing is almost 30 years old, 180,000 miles. It looks good. This is my first real look at it up close in the daylight. We just have some tiny door ding stuff, a little pinstriping, but that is fine with me because we're gonna kind of off-road it a little bit more. The chassis is clean underneath. The only real stuff paint-wise is we got a couple spots in the hood we might be able to address on there. That one's a little harder to address, but if that's all we have, we're happy about that. And with that sorted out, let's see what we just picked up. I'm kind of my own worst enemy, as you guys all know. We're out of room. I think I have our next space sorted out, so we'll have more room, but that doesn't help right at this very moment. So I kind of organized the factory Porsche parts that need to go back to the owner. We'll get those dropped off. I just didn't want to stuff that all in the 911 when we took it back, so that is at least sorted out. The mess of cardboard boxes we had in here from that is also cleaned up, which means we can now unload this and plug the open spaces back up. So all this stuff was relatively close to me in the grand scheme of Land Rover things. We only had to drive 8 hours total. It was like 3.5 hours away. And I found this for sale while we were out in Colorado. We'll call that the abs of being a Land Rover hoarder. ABS. Always be searching. So those first two parts were a pair of 110 rear seats for a Defender, obviously. Some random Defender bits here. Box of random Defender sheet metal parts. These black bars are what I was really after. Box full of hardware for those bars. More bars. This was much easier when we had two people to load it. But as we always do, we'll manage. I'm starting to lose count of how many sets of these I have laying around. So I guess if you need some floor pans or some footwell boxes, let me know. We also have a front diff, just a factory one. Guess if we ever need a core for something, and I guess we really needed that. That's a cylinder head for a 300 TDI. Axle. Now this piece I'm happy to have. And that is another R380. It's supposed to be in good shape, but even if it isn't, I do like having some core ones around. Now let's see if I can slide this guy out. These are a little heavier. And that's just another LT230 transfer case. We'll have to clean it up and see what ratio we got. I feel like I'm currently attempting to have the largest collection of LT230s laying around. For what particular reason, I'm not sure. But I think that concludes everything from today's haul. But yes, the main thing we were after was this roll bar. That is a Safety Devices front hoop set for a 90 or a 110. I guess it'll work with whatever. We happen to have a 90 getting built. Also a 110, and you just never know what may show up around here. So I figured having that around would be a good thing. It is new, never installed. It's got a couple little nicks from storage, so we'll have to paint it whenever we use it. But that is a good piece to have around. I mean, you can't claim to be a hoarder if you don't continually hoard. So I think in the next couple weeks, we will be starting to move and split work between here and the new place, or at least move a bunch of my junk to the new place and clear out here. It's gonna be nice to have some more space. Obviously, I'm out of it. I wasn't expecting to outgrow the car wash instantly, but I guess my so-called business I'm running here has outgrown it. I bought too much stuff. Also, I think to be in business, you have to sell stuff. So maybe that's coming in the future. But with that being said, appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you subscribing, and we will catch you on Thursday with lightweight and LR4 truck action. Should be pretty good moves on both of them, being we got parts we were waiting for. So Jamie's got a bunch of jars filled with caterpillars from the butterfly garden out back. I guess it was caterpillars. But right now it seems like daily we get to release a few butterflies. Fly away. We're getting the wings warmed up here. He's not quite ready yet, so we'll just let him hang out in the jar. He'll fly away when, yep, there he goes. How cool.